I'm not sure what happened. Um, Internet's good. I just lost my connection to the server. Weird. Maybe I have too many windows up. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. I'm not sure what happened there. That's kind of annoying. Um, huh. Okay. Well, sorry about that. I will watch that. I'm not sure where I left off before everything disconnected. Anyways, I'll try to remember where I started. Um, Magnus and I was talking about something about the new codex or the new codex supplements that were coming out, and where I thought things were going to go, what information I had from Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and it just something popped in my head, and I realized that I've been reading some novels. I've been getting back into reading the 40K novels because they're not as depressive as they used to be. And as I've told you guys before, these novels will often have clues as to, say, a new army that are coming out or new units. As I mentioned to you guys before, the Overlord is a flyer that will be coming. I think it's a super heavy flyer like the Thunderhawk, but it is the Primaris version. It has been popping up now in 3 novels at least that I have read. I haven't read Plague War, where Mortarion and Gilliman duke it out, but I have a feeling it's in there as well. So, with that being said, these novels also often have these little clues. And I think, am I still connected, Denner? My thing says that stream has been attempting to reconnect 2 minutes ago. Let me know if I'm still connected. It says I'm still live. Sorry, guys, about this. Something's going on with my internet. Yeah, okay, cool. We're still live. Anyways, so if you have read the Death Watch novel that came out about a year or so ago, and then they just came out with the essentially part 2, or I don't even want to say it's part 2 or a sequel. I guess actually it is kind of a sequel to it, Shadowbreaker, and it's following Squad Talon, and in particular, it is a lot of focus on this main character, this Codicier, the librarian Leandros, Karandros, I think. I might be butchering that name. Anyways, as he is being groomed by the Death Spectre's librarian, the Order, and by the Inquisition and a lot of other things, through twists of fate and reading the future and getting them where they need him to be to become more and more powerful. And the reason why is, and this is this might be a spoiler if you have not read the books, so you might need to turn it off. I'll wave at you when I'm done talking about it. And I'm going to talk about it right now. On the Death Spectre's home planet, see if I've got the name somewhere. Oculus, I believe. Yeah, Oculidus. There's this, basically they call it the Throne of Glass in the dome of something. It's called the Shariax. Essentially, it's a glass throne, right? A glass throne that's psychically attuned and very similar in description to the Golden Throne, and it acts as a psychic amplifier, but nowhere near on that level. And a chapter master, which always is the librarian, always, as soon as he becomes a chapter master, he goes and sits on the throne, and he's there until he literally turns to stone and dies. And I think this is somewhat connected. That throne, they've already starting to kind of speed up the process of talking more about Leandros and him coming back to Oculidus and taking up the throne. In fact, they call him the Living Chalice. That is what they are saying he's going to be. And the reason why I bring this up also is because in Shadowbreaker, they're talking about the Tau. They're talking about their psychics in there and the involvement with the Tyranids. So I'm not going to go beyond that, but there's a lot in that book that I'm not going to go into too much detail about. Like I said, I don't want to do too much spoilers, but there's a lot that you have that connection. And then there is a new book that dropped, I think today. Yeah. It is a Belisarius Call novel where he and the Size of the Emperor are returning to Sotha, which was their homeworld that was totally wiped out by the Tyranid Hive Fleet. Those of you that are familiar with Sotha or Horus Heresy will remember that on Sotha is the psychic beacon, some alien device, ancient alien device, older than the Necrons, older than the Satan, called the Pharos. All right. And that was used during a Horus Heresy. Oh, I'm sorry. I finished my spoiler. I'm going to do another spoiler. The Pharos was used to cut through the warp storm and allow, basically creating like a mini beacon and able to almost teleport anywhere in a galaxy, as Dantioch will have done in this book. It was really, really good book. So the Pharos, so Belisarius Call, if you are not familiar, Belisarius Call is the collective of several different people, and but in one big massive body. Or he's been around for 10,000 years. So he's the one that put together the Primaris over all these 10,000 years, got them together, and he's been working on that whole dream that Gilliman had. And he is now on Pharos to figure it out, to basically try to, I'm guessing, destroy or get a beachhead into the big psychic disturbance where the warp has opened up and split the galaxy in half. So we have these two incidents that are going on, right? So we have, just to recap, we have the Death Specters who are building up for, essentially what I'm going to say is like a mini golden throne. It's the throne of glass, but it's the same thing. They use it it amplifies the power of the Death Specters. And I wasn't kidding when I said that they turn to stone over time. It slowly calcifies them and then petrifies them. And then we have Pharos. Sorry, get my hands over here. We have Pharos, another type of beacon, right? And what's the big issue that we have right now with the current Dark Imperium is that we're not able to get the guiding light of the Emperor's light and everything. And a big, lots of psychers have died. Lots of, the warp has spilled out. So a lot of bad stuff has happened with this. So we know the Psychic Awakening is going to happen, and it's going to affect all 24 factions. So there's a couple factions in here, Tau notably, but not too much. I don't care too much about the Tau. No offense, Tau players, but you have a psychic subservient race that they have not brought forward. The one in particular of note is, where is it? The Necron, right here. Hopefully it's on my screen. Yeah. The Necron don't use psychers. In fact, the whole psychic thing is anathema to them. They are ravaged by, it's basically anti-Necron weapon. Now, here's where we're going to get into the goods. At least I hope it's the goods. This is where I'm starting to theory craft this with a couple other people. And I think, what threat could be so great that could affect all 24 races, including the Necrons in a psychic manner? What threat, what thing could be rising up from the warp that's going to cause so much, that's going to make everything that's happened in the breadth of history since the Horus Heresy to now seem like, well, as they put up there, a border scuffle? I think it's the return of the Old Ones. Now, hear me out. The Old Ones are a psychic, or were a race they call the First Ones in some cases, that where they created the webway. They are the ones that reportedly, through a lot of documentation, they created the supposedly they created the orcs and created the Eldar, and I believe possibly created humans. I have to read up on that one, but the orcs and the Eldar, the Nib, which is like, I might not be pronouncing it right, but it's spelled K''NIB. That's been popping up recently in some audio dramas, or in an audio drama recently with Watch Captain Artemis from the Death Watch. I believe it was an audio drama. He fought some of the Nib. Anyways, the Old Ones are the ones that created all this stuff. Now, the Old Ones were these divine beings, pretty much not gods, but pretty much like gods, or super powerful, intelligent race, very advanced, everything else. And they came to war with the Necrontyr. Now, this is before the Necrontyr became the soulless Necrons. They battled it out. They realized, I'm going to paraphrase or kind of like shrink this down here, but they basically, the old ones fought this, they call it the War in Heaven, or the War of Heaven. And they used everything at their disposal to defeat the Necrontyr and the Catan, or Satan. In fact, the things that they were doing is, in some references, is what gave birth to the demons of the warp, or the predators of the warp, because they were using so much of that living immaterial energy, and the Eldar and all these different races popping up and creating all these different emotions and all these different things that normally weren't interacting with the warp, but since they were using that as a weapon against the Necrontyr, it helped spawn essentially chaos. Now, I'm sure that's all going to get retconned in some way, but that's the current lore. Now, the old ones would be probably the biggest threat that Games Workshop could throw at everybody to affect them in such a manner. I don't think it's any of these factions that already exist. I think it's a faction that exists in lore, but not one that we ever thought about they would ever bring forward. It'd always be kind of a background information. Now, some people will associate the old ones with the Slan, the lizard men from the 40K or the Age of Sigmar universe. Games Workshop has done everything they can to say these are two different universes, so don't consider them. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but they are separate. Now, I don't think we're going to see the Lizardmen race all of a sudden appear in Warhammer 40,000 universe, because they were a subservient race, or they were created by the old ones. The old ones are totally different from them. Now, there's some references to the old ones way back in the day. I want to say Rogue Trader era. There's some indication that it was they could be Cthulhu related, but you have to remember back then in the 80s, 70s and 80s, late 70s, early 80s, when all this was being put together, throwing Cthulhu stuff in there was just a great way to tie in, because that was like an explosion in gaming and novels, and it was a great menace. So I think they're going to retcon it a little bit, or a lot. I think they just kind of actually, they never even came out and said Cthulhu or any of the great old ones from Cthulhu. They just call them the old ones. And in fact, they're described as angelic beings. So, as I continue on here, I think that, I mean, this is just a guess, because I also have theorized that the Emperor will be waking up, which we already know he's awake, because he chit-chatted with Gilliman on 2 occasions, when Gilliman first made it to Terra to go stand before him and get the Emperor's sword and go forth being the regent, or the Lord Commander of everything. And then again during the Plague War, where he appeared on the battlefield and was as a small child, or in the body of a small child, and was just pretty much just Mary Suing, as you'd expect from the Emperor, Mary Suing people all around, because I think it was a female child, and then carried on a conversation where Gilliman was like, "Oh, hey, my lord, what's going on? How you doing?" So we know he's awake. We already knew he was awake, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be anything to do with him, because his reemergence would not be a detriment to a lot of races. So I think what is happening right now is that there's going to be a lot of internal conflict, a lot of civil war breaking out. Everything's just going to get really chaotic. And then I'm going to say probably about 2 books in to this whole series, that's when we're going to see who the big bad is. I'm putting my money on the old ones. I'm going to put my money that the old ones are returning, or it's possible there was another big threat, the Enslavers. They were a psychic species that basically took over the Webway stuff, and they're a very dangerous psychic race. I believe they were like big floating brains with tentacles. I don't think it's going to be them. They were never a big creature or a big threat. They were more of a parasitic race, less than the Tyranids. So I think the old ones are a solid guess at being the big bad, because they were never destroyed. There was never anything saying that they were destroyed. Their civilization was destroyed, but their everything that the other information seems to indicate that they retreated from the universe, and that's a bit. I mean, from the galaxy. So where could they have gone? Hidden in the warp. I mean, that's where they played. That was their playground. So I think what's this big giant calamity that has happened with the Dark Imperium and the, I forget what they call it, the Imperium Nihilus, whatever it's called, the big tear in the galaxy. I think that is basically, that's like, oh shit, what is happening? They basically woke up to it, and then the Pharaohs, I bet freaking Belisarius Call is going to tinker with it. It's going to go off, and it's going to get activated, and it's going to put out a call too. And you know, they're going to figure out what to do with the Living Chalice, with the Death Specters, and whatever's going on. You know, I think the Emperor's going to put out his psychic call. There's a lot of possibilities here, but I think that in some way this is all going to be nice and connected, or very loosely connected, and that's what's going to signal essentially the old ones. I think actually the big tear in the galaxy, where the immaterium is just spilling out into the material universe, is the big wake-up call. And so we've had to have this basically 2 years of conflict, well, 2 years real time, versus, you know, over around about 200 years in lore time. So is it true? No, I don't know, man. We know that the Pharaohs was extremely powerful, because when that sucker was activated during the Horus Heresy, it went and reached outside the galaxy and alerted the Tyranids, and they even talk about it in the book. It alerted the Tyranids to, hey, there's a Happy Meal in this entire galaxy. Come on over. Now, it took them 10,000 years to get here, you know, from whatever galaxy they came from, but that's how powerful the Pharaohs is. And if Call is tinkering with it in this book that's coming out, or that's come out today, this might be the final wake-up call. He might be finally doing something he probably shouldn't have done, and I don't know. This is my bet. I can't think of any creature, anything out there that would be so monumental, such a monumental threat that all 24 factions would be affected. I mean, a Primarch coming back, a couple Primarchs coming back, even all the Primarchs come back, would be nothing compared to what all these other events. It would be pretty close, but something that hasn't been this bad since Horus Heresy or before. And this is going to be a new big bad, I think. That's what I'm laying my money on. It's going to be a way for them to move the story forward, and I think it's going to get, well, as I said, cataclysmic. So that is all I have. Once again, this is just theory crafting. I got no proof. I'm just kind of connecting the dots on a number of things. I don't have a lot of solid proof, but there's definitely enough information out there to start forming a theory. Like I said, I don't think it's the the Rack Goal from the, if you've ever played any of the RPGs from Fantasy Flight games, the Death Watch or Rogue Trader. I don't think it's going to be the Lizardmen or the Slan. I don't think they're coming. And I don't think it's any of these. I don't think it's Slanesh. You know, I don't think it has anything to do with the lion waking up or anything like that. I think it is a new big bad that is coming, and it is going to really shape. Well, I mean, look at the description. Psychic Awakening is a monumental event that will shape Warhammer 40,000 forever on a scale unlike anything you have ever seen before. What else could that be except the return of a big bad? Something monstrous is coming. And I don't think, and the only other thing I can think of is the Emperor getting up out of his chair and going, okay, let's get to work, you know. And I don't know. I really don't know, but I'm betting the old ones or something similar is coming back. All right. I only want to do a short stream. I got about 20 minutes in. Fantastic. I hope you guys like the video. Make sure you hit follow. I'm going to get this uploaded to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, jump on over, subscribe, follow us on Twitch. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can actually subscribe for free every month. Of course, we like paid subscriptions, but jump on there. Just hit subscribe, and that way you'll get all these alerts and these updates. I'm going to try to keep doing these videos. In fact, I'm going to buy that book, the Belisarius Call book that just came out. I'm going to read through it, and probably by Tuesday I'll have some answers for you on what he is doing there. It'll be very interesting because the front cover has him with a Death Spectre, or not Death Spectre, a Scythe of the Emperor behind them. They're going back to the planet, so imagine there's Tyranids still there, because we know that Tyranids like to burrow even after they've killed a planet. So that's probably gonna be them versus the Tyranids, and probably battling out inside Pharaohs to activate it. So we'll see. Between that, what's going on in the Death Watch books and the Tau and their psychic stuff that's going on, there is more to uncover. And I think right now the Phoenix Rising is kind of like a not a red herring necessarily, but it's really a, oh, look over here, the Eldar, they're fighting each other again, oh no. And it's really just a prelude. It really, I think it's a minor thing in the big scheme of things. All right, I'm done talking. I've got some stuff I got to get doing. Y'all have a good day. I will still have a show tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Don't know what I'll talk about since I dropped all this, but we'll see. Have a good day. Enjoy your weekend.